Hey, welcome to the Every.Thing.After podcast. This is Rob. I'm here with Joey Bones. We're going to be talking about summer movies again. But first off, Joey, you and I had a chance over the weekend to see a show together, which was pretty fun.
Definitely, and get to knock a couple of those bucket list names off our concert list as well. Definitely Bob Dylan was the big one, Willie Nelson as well. Bruce Hornsby in the Range was phenomenal. I loved that. And Nathaniel Radcliffe in the Night Sweats was like the big surprise. I was eager to see them, but I had no idea the type of energy they would have on stage.
Yeah, totally. We saw the Outlaw Musical Festival. Willie Nelson and family brought a fantastic group of musicians with them to Northeast Ohio over the weekend. And Joey and I were there on the lawn experiencing that. Like you said, Willie Nelson was the headliner. Bob Dylan right up there too. Nate Rateliff and Bruce Hornsby. We missed the opening act, unfortunately. It was a little hard to get there before 4 o'clock, but fantastic show all around. I thought everybody sounded great.
It was a beautiful night for it, too. It was warm, but it did cool down with that breeze and just the clear skies. I really, really enjoyed hearing some of the different takes on some of these artists' classic songs because they have played them for so many years.
Yeah.
They like to fool around and give you little twists and stuff with them. And I really enjoyed Bruce Hornsby with The Way It Is. He kept playing with it, and it was very jazzy, his interpretation of the song that night. And then the band took off with it. And from there on, I was just like, man, this is a great night, Great night, great music with a great friend. It was all around. I can't express how grateful I was to have had that chance to go that night and spend that time with you as well.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. That was really fun. I had a good time too. We had quite the conversation going, if I remember. We had a lot of brainstorming happening. Some things we may have to eventually break out here on the podcast. We got some ideas, I think, for some movies we're going to write.
Absolutely.
So that might be the segue into talking about movies today. Joey and I got a few ideas for some movies that we think are going to be summer blockbusters probably in the year 2035. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. 3 or 4 movies, I think, that are probably going to do really well at the box office.
Right.
But yeah, that's a little down the line. We are talking about summer movies. This is kind of part 2 of our summer movie countdown. And we talked about some movies last time we were looking forward to. We talked about a few that we'd seen. Joey, you've seen a movie since then. I saw a movie this week. What did you see?
I went to go see How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal.
The new live action.
Yes. The casting was superb. The costumes and the scenery, everything just fit so perfectly. And it kept the cartoonishness to it. Because several times I looked and I'm like, if they didn't look like even the people so cartoonish, they would have been frightened. But the story, like it was that good story. It's got that heart and, the father and son thing and trying to make dad proud. Like you're different than dad and you're not able to do the things he does, but you're different. You can do other things.
Yeah.
That coming of age. I think they did an amazing job with it. Definitely, I haven't seen a lot of the live action remakes, but of the ones I've seen, this is the top. They did a phenomenal job, and hopefully it sets them up for the sequels as well. I think this is going to be, especially with the way the weather's going right now, it's hot. You need to get out from outside and escape sometimes, and this is a great one to take your kids to. They'll probably want to see it a couple times.
Yeah.
There's so much going on that we were with 4 kids, and they were all mesmerized the whole movie. And I was too. I was... really excited, especially for that final, when they find the nest and they go and the big dragon comes out and that whole last battle there. It was just a real heartwarming story, and it kept the nostalgia of the old one, but it's
original animated.
You didn't hate it. You actually love this one. So it's a real good job they did with it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think what maybe sets this apart is the live action How to Train Your Dragon was directed by the same director who did the animated version.
Well, you
So
can tell.
so very true to the original. He decided he wanted to be the one to kind of bring it to life in this new way. Saw a little bit of an interview with him where he's talking about behind the scenes stuff. I thought it was really impressive. Fairly new face as Hiccup. Mason Thames is the actor portraying Hiccup. But then you got a couple of veterans in this too. You got Gerard Butler as his dad, and Nick Frost in this movie too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I do have to say, Hiccup reminds me a lot of a young Jesse Eisenberg.
Okay.
Just in his mannerisms and the voice and stuff. There, many times I was like, "Whoa, is that his brother?"
Really?
He did a great job with it, though. Like the whole cast was perfect, especially the kids. And I loved the brother and sister duo that ride the two-headed dragon.
Yeah.
The comic relief. That was my favorite part, and there was much of it there, much to laugh about. The kids were interested in all the different dragons and everything. Seeing some of them, like the nightmare when it's on fire, was really, really impressive. So
yeah, that's cool, man. I think talking about Mason Thames reminded you of Jesse Eisenberg. I wanted to say, because you were talking about it's a character who decides to kind of go his own way, doesn't really conform to his family norms or do what's expected of him. And I wanted to ask, because of the Eisenberg connection, if at some point he didn't ask Gerard Butler about starting some new social network,
right?
Calling it the Dragon Book. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, I had to get a Facebook joke in there. Social network, Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah, not funny if you have to explain the joke, Joey. But that's cool. I do want to see it. I've yet to see it. I will see it in theaters if I can, because I think that's a movie. The enormity of it, just the dragons. You have to see the dragons on a big screen, as big a screen as you can.
Absolutely, and I look forward to watching it again this summer, maybe in like a double feature at the drive-in. Yeah, I definitely suggest the theater for the first time because it's impressive.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. The scenery, the hills, and I mean, it's gorgeous.
Cool.
I don't get tired of looking at it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that the movie that you watched this week probably has, I would hope anyway, significantly less nudity in it than the one I watched. And not just nudity, but zombudity.
Zombudity.
Zombudity. Talking about zombie penis, okay? Lots of it. And 28 years later, lots of zombie dick. And 28 years later, just got to put it out there. And so, yeah, Danny Boyle's the director of this. And I saw an interview with him too, tongue in cheek, I guess. But he was saying, because he had kids on the set, that the genitalia that's displayed had to all be, I guess, CGI or prosthetic.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
So it wasn't officially Dong of the Dead.
God, you had that one in your pocket. That was a good one. Yeah. But no, I mean, I saw something about it before going in about, people were saying just, fair warning, there's a lot of full frontal, like zombie male genitalia on display for a lot of this movie. And I thought, oh, great. Okay, well, that's what I'm in for. I was watching it kind of thinking like, okay, let's see how exaggerated that is. I'm sure like it's not like really, in your face, so to speak. I'm sure it's more subtle than people are making it out to be, but no, it's pretty out there. There's an alpha zombie in particular that you see a lot more of than you'd care to, and he's like a beast of a guy, like a Momoa type, like large figure, and yeah, you get a lot of that right in the face.
Oh wow.
Don't sit too close to the screen. But no, it was an interesting movie. It was fairly well done. I remember the first one pretty fondly. I thought it was pretty unique at the time. Of course, Cillian Murphy's one of my favorite actors. I think he's just grown in stature in terms of like the actors that I respect the most. I think Cillian Murphy's right there. He's fantastic in that movie. I'm not as big a fan of Aaron Taylor Johnson, who takes the lead in this one, though I'd say he kind of cedes the lead at some point to the younger character, to the younger male that's in this film, which is kind of interesting. And of course, it's got Jodie Comer in it as well. She plays sort of an interesting role. The actor that plays the main kid in it is Alfie Williams. I don't think he's been in anything before. Maybe this is his first role, and I think he did a really nice job of, like I said, pretty much carrying it. I saw some criticism of it, and I will add that I think that it's one of those setups that if you think too much about it, the entire thing, all of this was just so avoidable. And sometimes in a horror movie, you got to get past that, but none of this had to happen.
Yeah.
Bad choices were made. Very bad choices were made, and it leads to some zombie dramedy, and it's fairly fun to watch if you can get past sort of the full frontal display there. There's some interesting stuff going on. I thought that, it sets up a sequel, or I guess this would be, because this is the third movie in the series. This sets up the fourth film. I think. It could end where it ends, but it seems to be pretty much setting up another film.
Yeah.
It's not a credit scene, but it almost is. It happens right before the credits, and it's so different from the rest of the movie. So I won't talk too much about it and spoil it, but it's pretty interesting. We talked a little bit on the last podcast about the stunt that they pulled with Cillian Murphy by saying he was in the film, and then they released a trailer with a zombie that looked a lot like Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
I saw after we talked about it, Danny Boyle trying to play that off as like coincidence, saying that zombie was not filmed and not meant to look like Cillian Murphy. I don't know if I buy that.
Right.
They did a thing where they said Cillian Murphy's in this one. I don't know who that came from. And then that zombie that looks like him showed up in the trailer, and everybody had a big thing about it. And it's in the movie for like 5 seconds. Cillian Murphy had a role in the movie, but not on screen. Like, he was part of the creative team, and he is going to show up on screen in a future film in this franchise. So that was a little weird.
Were there many throwbacks to the other films?
Not really. It's not super connected. Like, it could have been a movie really in any... I think it's in that style. Like, it looks like 28. Like, it's got a little bit of that style in it of the previous movie. Right. It's got Danny Boyle's style in it, the storytelling and the cinematography. But from what I remember, it doesn't really associate it with those other films. I think you'd have the same experience with it. It's completely different characters on this island in the Scottish Highlands or whatever. And there's a scene in the beginning, sort of a prelude to the story that we're going to be seeing. And it doesn't really say where it fits in the timeline. You just sort of see a kid and a family, and they hit you with something at the end that's a little bit surprising, like I said. But no, I think it could almost stand alone, honestly.
Well, that's good for new fans as well,
Yeah.
Then they can come in and get hooked on that and go back and watch some of the older ones.
Yeah, I think so. I'd be interested in checking out the first one and then 28 Weeks Later, which I don't remember that much of, but I do remember 28 Days Later. Pretty fondly. And, it was gory in some parts, but I didn't think it was extremely, terrifying. I'm not really into really scary movies, it's got its sort of jump scare moments. It's, sit on the edge of your seat anticipating what's going to come next and all that kind of thing. I didn't find it overly scary. And I saw it in a theater by myself on a Tuesday evening. Nobody else in the theater. Everybody else was watching How to Train Your Dragon. All the trailers, of course, are for horror movies, and the trailers are playing, and I'm like, did I make a bad decision today coming to this movie by myself? All in all, I had a good time watching it.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And on these summer blockbusters, a lot of times that's all that really matters, Did you enjoy yourself? Were you able to escape from everything else going on in the world for 2 hours to 2.5 hours for the runtime of your movie?
I expressed some concerns about it. The zombie nudity, the zombudity, and the setup. I guess it's typical in horror movies, though. A lot of times you're looking at a situation that didn't have to happen if people had made better decisions. So, I'd expressed some concerns about that, but I think what really drives it, again, the young actor in this did a phenomenal job, and I thought Jodie Comer was really interesting in it. But I thought the character story was a really interesting one. And then you also had Ben Kingsley show up at one point.
Nice.
So, can't go wrong with a little Ben Kingsley in your movie.
Not at all.
So what? I don't know. Star wise, I probably say it's about a 3.5 out of 5. I'd say. Enjoyable, but it's got a few issues with it.
Not bad. Now, on to some of our other movies for the summer. We've got some big ones coming up here soon.
We do. Super excited. We're going into July here soon. June is fading away.
And right there at July, we got the two big ones, for me at least,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park and Superman.
Jurassic World Rebirth. Yeah.
I'm excited to see the new take on this, to see is it, obviously it's going to be a new story in the line of all of these.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'll go see Scarlett Johansson in just about anything. So sign me up for that one.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson's, she's pretty untouchable these days. I think it needed a shot of Scarlett Johansson in the arm, that franchise, because I feel like it was, it was fading. Chris Pratt can only carry it so far.
I lost a little bit of my. Well, I mean, after the first three movies were really good, I thought. And then you got into the Pratt years, and I was just like, okay, it's more story, I guess. I just didn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
And then the last one I saw, I did like that one. I'm eager to watch this one to see where they go back. It's always a good summer movie, though, to watch giant dinosaurs. It's going to happen.
I was going to say, because this one's called Rebirth, I wanted to also mention that there is a birth, and 28 years later, it's a zombirth. It's a zombirth. Yeah, yeah. If you're sensitive to that, just another warning there. About 28 years later. So Jurassic World, we're firmly in the summer movie season with that. Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali is in that, and then a week after that, July 11th. What we got on the lineup, Joey? Superman. My most anticipated film of the year. Definitely of the summer, but I think probably of the year. Like, I'm super excited about it.
I've definitely been going back and watching a lot of the DC stuff in anticipation for this. Honestly, Superman's not one of the characters that I love, just because to me he's not super relatable. He's super goody-goody, there's not a lot of flaws to him, but this take on it, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I love James Gunn. I think his work is growing and he's growing, and I'm excited to see what he does with this DC universe. I've already seen through some of the trailers for Peacemaker Season 2 that the Green Lantern character's in there. So the worlds are crossing over. And I'm excited about it.
Okay, well, here's why I'm excited about Superman. Okay, because I think that I think we've seen some pretty great comic book movies. Like, can't argue that in the past 10 years, in the past 20 years, we've seen some really good comic book stuff, and a lot of it's been relatable. That's the word you use, but I guess more human and grounded. They have stories and they have characters and they have set pieces that make them look like they could happen in our world, right? And and some of them are gritty, and some of them are certainly. There's a lot of emphasis on flawed heroes and things like that. There's some anti-hero stuff that's been going on. Superman's different for me, I like you said, he's a little goody-goody. Sure, that could be said about Superman. But what Superman more than I think most of the heroes that we've seen in film in the past 10 to 20 years, Superman more than any of those others, more than Iron Man, more than Thor, more than Captain America, represents hope and represents a champion, a hero in a time of need, someone to look up to, a role model for children. When you want a hero, when you need a hero, when you're calling out for a hero, you're calling out for someone like Superman.
Right. That's truth, justice, in the American way. You don't get better than him.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to see a superhero on screen that is a little bit goody-goody, that is a little bit pure-hearted and pure intention. And that's not to say that Superman isn't flawed, because I think that, there are quite a few. I mean, he's basically the superhero immigrant. He's come to this world that he doesn't really belong in, or that, some people would say he doesn't belong in, and he's making his way in it. He's becoming more human.
Well, and becoming our protector in all of that. while we may not accept him or even think he belongs here, in that time he becomes our protector, and it's that classic story. I'm super duper excited to see as well how we get Superman's dog. I'm super excited to see how Crypto comes onto the screen.
I'm so excited about that. I'm a big dog person anyway, and like Crypto's just stolen my heart immediately. I'm so excited about that. But no, this one, it looks, they've made couple Superman movies and movies with Superman in them. Again, the Zack Snyder verse or whatever, and some people really like those movies, and that's cool. And I enjoyed them to an extent, but also they feature a darker Superman.
Yes.
I mean, it's just it's inarguable that they do. It's not the beacon of light and hope. A lot of it's shot in shadow. In some sense, they've Batman-tized Superman. They've taken the approach that they took with Batman and they've applied it to a Superman film or a series of Superman films. But it's not this pure Superman, and it seems like that's what we're going to get in this new one. And it seems like it's closer in spirit and heart with the original Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman.
And that's the vibe I got off of it as well.
Yeah.
Visually, what I've seen from the trailers, it looks spectacular.
Oh, it does, yeah.
I mean, from the costumes to the special effects and everything. I'll be really excited to see if his trademark use of music follows through, because he has made some iconic moments happen with some really classic songs.
Yeah.
On screen. So if we could get a little bit of that with this too, it would be awesome. Back to the John Williams score, and I'd be just as happy as well. So
yeah, you're looking for a Star-Lord mixtape, so to speak, for Superman, right? A Star-Lord style mixtape. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I don't know. I guess that's something that we haven't really ever seen in the Superman movie either. A lot of real sort of levity and creative use of pop songs or radio songs for for the soundtrack, because a lot of Superman stuff, obviously you're getting a lot of score for those movies.
I'm hoping that we get some cool cameos that set up future projects.
Yeah,
I know we got our Green Lantern in there. Do we get a glimpse of a new Batman, you think? Do you think any of that? Any rest of the Justice League?
Well, I hope they don't try to go too far with that. I hope James Gunn, I guess, doesn't try to go too far with that. He's already said there are going to be credit scenes, and that they're going to be more fun, like they used to be in the early days of Marvel, when they weren't setting up the next movie and the movie after that, movie after that. So they're not going to be credit scenes that set up the next movie, but they're going to be something fun at the end, just like an extra scene, like not necessarily meaningful to the universe and stuff. So I think that's cool. So does that rule out like a Batman glimpse of Batman maybe in one of the credit scenes? I'm not sure. I think they could probably do that. There's been so much discussion of where they're going to go with casting Batman in particular, and James Gunn has said that Batman is like the biggest problem he has, or the biggest challenge that he has in front of him, and that's certainly true. Like, what do you do? Like, there's so many eras of Batman right now. What do you
hire Kevin Smith and let him do it
completely?
Give it to Kevin Smith and let him do it. I saw what he did with Masters of the Universe on Netflix, and it was pretty awesome. I mean, I think him directing a Batman movie would be incredible.
Yeah? Huh.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. I think he would approach the material with a lot of reverence. Like, I think he would try to do a true Batman movie. He would try to do like something that honored the material and everything. I think he's that kind of director. I don't think that he would try to make a Jay and Silent Bob movie into a Batman movie, or a Jay and Silent Batman, or Blunt Man and Chronic or something. I don't think he would do that with it, because he could do that, and that would be kind of terrible in my opinion.
It would.
I don't think he would do that. I think he would respect the material and make a good Batman movie.
Then after Superman, what do we have on the calendar for rest?
Wow. Okay. So we're going off of this Rotten Tomatoes summer movie calendar, and we should probably post this in the Instagram so people can see it. But you can find it. It's on RottenTomatoes.com. So coming up the weekend after Superman, a remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not a remake, I guess, because it's actually got the older Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in it. So I guess it's a sequel. It doesn't have a number after it. I guess they didn't want to call this I Know What You Did Last Summer. What would it have been? Would it have been like 7 or 8? Have they made
4?
4? Okay, because I was like,
Yeah.
did they make as many of these as they made of the Final Destination movies?
No, no. I was a huge fan of the original movies,
Yeah,
and I think the first one I saw, I may have seen it in boot camp. We had like I think it was like Thanksgiving, we got to go to the movie theater and we saw the first one. And after that, I just became a fan of the series and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I'm excited to see her back. I love Freddie Prinze Jr. It's the story. You don't really watch these for the story, anyways. It's always kind of you're trying to put together who it is. You know, it's one of the people that you met early on, normally.
is that the
Um,
case with these though?
it's
It is. Is it like somebody under the hood? Is it like Scooby Doo? Like this, you pull the hood off and it's somebody different and somebody from the
I
story.
mean,
I
that's
don't
all of
remember
these
it.
movies, really. You know, I mean, although it got a little far fetched at the end of the third one, like, I think it was like somebody, the original person they hit, somebody was related to them. It was getting weird. So I hope this doesn't continue with that. Maybe we get like, the people from the sequel in a reboot fashion, let them play new roles and have
Yeah.
it start over.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
So, Joe, correct me. I guess I'm wrong because I remember this. I thought that the person that comes after them is the person that they hit last summer with their car and presumed to be dead. Is it not that?
Oh my God, it was so long ago. I think it was in the first one, but in the
Okay.
second one, it just keeps getting weirder, like as they go.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, we got to rewatch this series, Joe, because you and
Right?
I have different recollection of it. And it seems to me like the first time, what happened was they hit somebody with their car on the road. They're like goofing off in the car. Maybe they were drinking. They hit somebody and they stop and they presume the person is dead. And they're like, oh, we got to call 911. And they're like, maybe we just shouldn't call 911. Maybe we
Right.
should just drive away and pretend like this never happened so we don't get in any trouble because that's what, it's what teenagers do. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that, kids. Don't do that, teens. If you hit somebody, something have an accident or something like that, you gotta own up to it. When you say, Joey,
Yeah, yeah. No,
don't do that. Don't do
don't
that.
do
It's
that.
law to do that anyway. But no, so they drive off, and then a year goes by, and then like the following summer, they start getting like threatening notes that say, I know what you did last summer. And then people start dying, and they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? We have to figure out who's doing this. And they go on this sort of mystery, Scooby-Doo like, and they learn about, the person who they hit with their car that previous summer. And it seems to me like his story is something that like he had killed somebody or something, so it wasn't so bad. Like he'd done something really bad himself. He was already like kind of psychotic or something, and they hit him with
Hmm.
a car, and then he actually didn't die, and then he like came with his
Gordon's fisherman outfit.
yeah, and just started like slashing people up and stuff like that. And so then I
Right.
don't know, like do they like stop him, kill him in the first one, or does he come back in the second one and the third one and now the fourth one? Is it the same guy? Like in those other movies, was it like a copycat or like it was someone they
The
knew who was dressing up in the outfit and trying kind of using it as just to disguise their crime?
one of them was, I believe, the second one, I believe, still had like Freddie Prinze Jr. was like fishing and stuff still.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and he didn't leave for college like everybody else. And like when everybody came back home, it all started happening again. But I think that one might have been a copycat, and then the third one was you found out that it was like a relative of the first guy or something.
yeah,
But
right.
once again, I didn't really watch them for the stories. I mean, it was just that typical summer slasher film, jump scare, just have on in the background, kind of scary movie
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. Did you ever made that Scooby Doo connection before? Because I don't think I did. That just came to me. And the funny thing about that is that Freddie Prinze Jr. is in the live
Right.
Scooby Doo
Yeah.
movies as Fred. And now I'm thinking of this in that lens, and I'm thinking, can you imagine, like, okay, the Mystery Machine kids, Fred and Velma and Daphne and Shaggy and Scooby, they're in the Mystery Machine, they're driving down some dark, twisty road or something, and they hit somebody, and they're like, oh, I don't think we should call the police. I think we might get in trouble. And they ruh-roh, and they drive off, and then a year later, like, somebody's coming after, like, killing
The
people.
mashup of the summer.
I think so. I think we need I know what you Scooby last that summer.
Right.
What you Scooby last summer. Ruh-roh. Man, that'd be great now. I think we need that. I think we need we need that Scooby-Doo I Know What You Did Last Summer mashup. And then that same weekend, this is, I don't know if this is going to cause the same sort of like rave or the same kind of fan that Barbie and Oppenheimer did, but same weekend of I Know What You Scoobied Last Summer is the new Smurfs.
Now, I love me some Smurfs.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've been done right on the big screen.
I don't think they have either. No.
So I would love for this to be the one that gets it right and takes it back to the days of watching Smurfs on the boob tube in the morning.
Yeah,
Because I enjoyed it, and every Smurf had their own distinct personality and traits, and there's so many stories you could tell there. So I mean, if this takes off, they really could have them a nice couple sequels and a nice franchise out of it.
Yeah.
You got Rhiannon in there, and I'm sure I know she's contributing more than just voice. That she's written some songs for the movie as well.
Oh, so it's going to be musical.
So, right.
Do you think the Smurfs will sing in it, or it'll just be like soundtrack?
I mean, the Smurfs always sang.
Oh, yeah,
that was a Smurfy thing to do.
That's true. That's true. That's true. But you think they're going to sing like a Rihanna style, like?
I feel like there'll probably be some type of, Trolls-esque dance number with Smurfette. There's got to be.
Yeah.
The only thing is I'm hoping in the original, Smurfette was made to trick the Smurfs because there wasn't any girl Smurfs. And she had dark hair and she was evil, and then they turned her good.
Right.
Like, stick to the story of Smurfette. Stick to it.
She was a Gargamel concoction, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Gargamel made Smurfette, and then the Smurfs turned her pure, and that's what she got her blonde hair and her Smurf dress, and moved into Smurf Village.
So I don't know. It's tough because I don't think a lot of kids know what Smurfs are.
Yeah.
But our generation, we grew up with them, so I don't know who they're really targeting. It's definitely a kids movie, but I feel like most of our kids are a little older.
Yeah, it's styled with like it's not CGI in a human world kind of thing. It's got more of a classic kind of animation style, which I think is a good thing. It's directed by Chris Miller, who did the original Shrek. So you got to think that it's in good hands. I want to talk a little bit about the cast and the character list here. So you mentioned...
I'm just looking through right now, and dang.
Rihanna is Smurfette, okay? Like, Rihanna is Smurfette. And you were last time we talked, you had fan cast John Goodman in a role, right? What was that?
Yes.
You'd fan
as the alien dude on Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch as the guy that Galifianakis plays on the live action Lilo and Stitch that just came out. You put John Goodman in that role. I mentioned like an earlier era John Goodman would be good for that, but we get old John Goodman in the Smurfs movie as the voice of Papa Smurf.
I love John Goodman.
Yeah.
I think he'll do great. I do think I may have some flashbacks of, Papa Gemstone at some points.
Yeah.
Just because I did spend all summer watching that. But, I mean, the cast, you're right. It just keeps going, too.
Yeah. So, third build, okay, in the cast, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell voices a character just called Ron.
Right.
Ron. Not Ron Smurf. Okay, that's good, I think. Not, but okay, Ron. Who's Ron in the Smurf universe, Joey?
I have no idea.
Do you think he's a Smurf? Do you think Kurt Russell plays a Smurf named Ron?
We might get some regular Smurfs. I don't know.
Yeah.
it's a whole new take on it.
Okay, it just confuses me because, there are other Smurfs in this cast. And, for example, we have Hefty Smurf, Vanity Smurf, Papa Smurf, Smurfette. All the Smurfs have Smurf in their name somewhere.
Right.
And so for there to be a character here that's just Ron, not Ron Smurf, or not Smurf Ron, you know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing with this. It's confusing because, we've seen in the past in some of these Smurf movies, they go a little far with the naming convention thing as a joke, and they kind of run into the ground. So they have really weirdly named Smurfs, like they have annoying Smurf or like obnoxious Smurf or something like that. You know what I mean? And so that confuses me. I don't know what they're doing with Ron, and then Nick Offerman as Ken, Dan Levy as Joel. Amy Sedaris as Jaunty. I'm gonna guess that's a Smurf. Jaunty Smurf? I don't know. Natasha Lyonne as Mama Poot.
Mama Poot.
Sandra Oh as Moxie. Jimmy Kimmel as Tardigrade. Octavia Spencer as Asmodeus. Nick Kroll as Chernabog. Hannah Waddingham as Jezebeth. And then you got Alex Winter, who played Bill in the Bill and Ted movies, as Hefty Smurf, which is funny. Man, but the cast list is just incredible. Like everybody's a heavy hitter. And James Corden plays No Name Smurf. I don't know if that's his name. If his name is No Name Smurf, or they just don't have the name yet to put on.
Right. I think he'll wind up with the name.
A generic Smurf.
He'll be. What are some of the ones we haven't named yet? You had Brainy. There was Grumpy. Wasn't there a Grumpy?
No, that's a dwarf, man. Dwarf.
There wasn't a Grumpy Smurf.
Grouchy Smurf. Grouchy Smurf. Grumpy Dwarf.
Okay. All right.
Grouchy Smurf. Get your Smurfs right, Joey. I'm going to have a real fit here. Get your Smurfs right.
Who was the one that was always building stuff?
They're not in the cast. Oh, Handy Smurf.
Yeah.
Handy Smurf and Hefty Smurf were always kind of at odds because one was the smart one.
Hefty had the tattoo, right?
Wait, no. Hefty Smurf had the tattoo.
Okay.
Handy was the one that was always walking around with a hammer.
And the pencil. Yeah.
And then Brainy had the glass. The smart one has to have glasses. So Brainy had glasses. And Jokey Smurf. How could we forget Jokey Smurf? Who's going to play Jokey Smurf and bring around the exploding birthday present?
Right.
I don't even see those guys in the cast. That's what's kind of throwing me. They got these weird boring and some interest. I'm guessing that Tardigrade and Asmodeus and Chernabog are probably part of some wizard society that Gargamel's part of, and and they taunt him, and it's like Groot and Despicable Me.
That would be great.
There's an association or a membership group, and he's
the Greater Wizards Council.
Ridiculed.
Yeah, they won't let Gargamel in.
I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. Gargamel's going to sort of be ostracized by some community of wizards or something. No, and that's where some of these characters, Jezebeth and Chernabog, Asmodeus, people like that, they sound like wizards to me. I mean, maybe even Moxie and Mama Poot. I don't know. Maybe they're wizard, or enchantresses. I don't know what's going on there. But then the ones that really, the Ron and the Ken and the Joel, the just really common named, boring named characters, and they're top billed in this cast. I'm curious. I don't know what they're doing here. I honestly don't know what they're doing here, Joey.
I don't know. That will be one to keep an eye on, I guess.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to talk about Smurfs. We'll have to figure this out. The mystery of Smurfs will be solved at some point. But then the next week in July, we've got Fantastic Four: First Steps. Another highly anticipated film this summer. Superman's DC, this is Marvel. This is Marvel's big movie for the year. I think well cast. Some people have had a few issues, I guess, with the cast, but I have no qualms with the cast. You got Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. You got Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. And you've got Ebon Moss-Bachrach from The Bear as Ben Grimm or The Thing. And then you've got Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch.
I like the casting. I like the overall look. Fantastic Four was one of the first teams in comic books. And to take it back with the retro futuristic, it just fits the whole series. I'm super excited to see the Silver Surfer on screen.
Yeah, yeah,
We've had it before and it was cool, but I think definitely I would love to see these Marvel Studios handle it. And I hope that we don't get a weird version of Galactus.
yeah.
The things I've seen are interesting, and I'm not sure what to make of it, but I rarely does Marvel miss on their big projects.
Yeah.
Some of the lesser known ones sometimes, the big ones they rarely miss. So I think this is going to be a home run.
I have high hopes for it. I think they've been hit and miss with fantastic. I mean, I don't know what did you like? How did you like the Fantastic Four films that they made in the '90s, like with Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm as the Thing, and then Chris Evans, of course, who went on to be Captain America as Johnny.
Yeah, I
And
really enjoyed
was
those.
it
I
Jessica
did.
Alba as Sue Storm, and then Ian Gruffold as Mr. Fantastic? You like those?
I did. I think today they didn't age well. They were very cartoony for
Yeah.
what the Marvel Universe is today.
Yeah.
I am really excited to see this take on the Thing because he does look very much more like the comic book Thing. So let's see. I'm curious. I really am. Marvel and Disney in general now has definitely gone to casting some people that it's worked with on other projects as well.
Mhm.
With Ben Grimm having been in The Punisher and Pedro in The Mandalorian, and so you're getting familiar faces, which is leading to quite a good cast,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
think, overall. I'm curious to see, is this an alternate universe and do they fail and then they have to come here and help us? I'm curious where it ends up.
Yeah.
But
Right.
definitely I'm super stoked for it.
Yeah, no, I think it looks good too. I will say, I like those ones that came out in the '90s. I liked that they were comic booky. I think they fit the superhero kind of vibe at that time. Like you said, it doesn't really match quality with what we've seen put out more recently by Marvel. So I think that there's definitely room to improve it. Though they've tried to reboot it in the past, and it was kind of a big flop. They made one with Miles Teller, right? Like a younger Fantastic Four,
Yeah,
and that bombed. That was pretty bad. I think I watched it. I think it was really bad,
I
actually.
enjoyed it. I
Really?
did. It was pretty good. I liked the take that they did on the story of them being younger, and it was just I liked it. There wasn't much to it. Michael B. Jordan, I like him. Him
Mm-hmm.
as Johnny Storm was interesting, and Reed Richards is one of those characters that, to me, his powers always seemed like he was basically Plastic Man, right?
Yeah.
But he was so smart. I don't think any of the movies really got into how ridiculously smart he was in like messing with other dimensions and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And like that's where he was storing criminals, was in this dark dimensional portal thing that
Right.
he had discovered. And like maybe that's what brings the Silver Surfer in. Maybe we're going
Yeah.
to get that side of Reed Richards, and that would be awesome to see,
Yeah. No, it looks like it. You
So,
see him in a classroom with a large chalkboard. It looks like they're really going to get
right.
into the brainiac aspect of the character, which I'm excited about. I just got to go back and say, though, Joey, you liked the Fantastic Four that came out with Miles Teller. That came out, what year was that? You are one of the very few to like that movie. So Rotten Tomatoes, the average critic score for this movie on Rotten Tomatoes is 9%, and it only doubles with the fan rating. So the fans rated it a combined 18%.
18.
So very poorly received movie. I remember it as being pretty bad. I remember being pretty disappointed in it. I wasn't fully against the idea of doing a younger Fantastic Four, but the way it turned out, I thought was pretty bad. I didn't think that anyone really carried the weight of that film properly. So
Right.
I have a lot of hope for this one. I think it's going to be good. Have you seen the popcorn bucket, though?
I have, yeah.
Have you seen the joke about the popcorn bucket? You know what I'm talking about?
I have not. No.
Controversial popcorn bucket, or at least the viral one Because there's this whole trend of like being really creative and like putting out like these like limited edition, collector edition, whatever. Like you can buy them at the concession stand, these props, these like things that they're making for these movies, these popcorn buckets and drink cups. I think it's kind of genius. I don't ever remember movie theaters selling their own merch or anything like that when I was growing up. So, candy and hot dogs and pizza by the slice and stuff like that, popcorn and soda pop. That's what I'm used to getting at the concession stand. But what they're doing, I think, with these popcorn buckets is really smart, really interesting, and I think intentionally they make popcorn buckets sometimes that can go viral because of how they are depicted on social media and things like that. So the one with Fantastic Four that's got people, I guess, talking and laughing and making jokes about and memeing about is the Mr. Fantastic popcorn bucket.
Yeah, where he's all stretched around the bucket.
So he's stretched around the bucket. Its hand is like all stretched out like it's holding the bucket, like his arm is all around the bucket. But if you position the popcorn bucket a certain way so that you can't
Right.
see that it's coming from his hand, it looks like it's coming from a different part of his body. Reed Richards' stretchy dick like around this popcorn bucket,
Maybe we find out he's stretchy everywhere, man. I don't know.
So that's the popcorn bucket everybody's going to go for this summer. I thought there's some really cool looking ones for Superman though. Like there's a really cool crypto one that I'd love to get, like a really cool crypto Regal like popcorn bucket that I'm like definitely going to probably buy. But also week of July 25th, Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out on Netflix. I'm a pretty big Adam Sandler fan. I really like me some Happy Gilmore. That's pretty peak Adam Sandler for me. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I feel the same way about it as I did the new Beverly Hills Cop, that Axel F movie that came out it was strictly for Netflix. I think Netflix is making some cool stuff, actually. I used to think like straight to streaming or something like that was a lower quality, but sometimes they'll surprise you. Sometimes it'll surprise you the movies that they don't make for theaters, that they make for streaming. I thought Axel F for follow-up to Beverly Hills Cop, I thought that could have played in theaters. I thought it was a good movie. I think that we'll probably get the same from Happy Gilmore too. It looks like it's going to be a good time.
No, I'm super excited. I think Sandler, you know what you're in for with Sandler. You're going to laugh.
Well, there's levels of Sandler. I'm a huge fan. I've seen him do stand-up twice. I think I've seen pretty much everything he's done. I think there might have been one or two that I missed intentionally. But that said, I mean, there are definitely levels of Sandler. He's got movies that are great, and then he's got movies that are good, and then he's got movies that are not so good, and then he's got a few kind of stinkers too. So it's not that he's consistently great, but when he's great, it's iconic. Like it's something you're gonna like want to watch over and over and over again. When he's on his game and putting out something where he's just skirting that line between good and bad and between funny and ridiculous, right there, like when he's at his zone and his peak, it's going to be iconic, and it's going to be something you're going to quote, you're going to watch over and over again. I think we might get that with Happy Gilmore too.
I think we will. I don't know that you would go back to such a character and not give it the proper movie it deserves.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff he has done sequels for, it's been pretty decent.
Yeah.
Granted, like you said, there are some of his movies that are just okay and some that are, but most of his sequels, he has been, he's got a hell of a production company and team around him. And the group of actors he has gotten for every project, I mean, you can't argue with it. So I do. I think we see a return to the old Sandler here for Happy Gilmore 2.
He doesn't make a lot of sequels. He makes some sequels for some movies he makes on Saturday Night Live. You could almost see, because he doesn't play a character that's very different anytime. He basically is Adam Sandler.
No, he plays himself,
and so it's very conceivable, but like he's playing the same character in all these movies. Like I like to do that exercise sometimes and think about it that way. So if you think about like Billy Madison's first big movie, so Billy Madison goes on and he leaves the nest or whatever at the end of that movie. He leaves the company to Carl, and he's like, "Dad, I'm going to go do my own thing." So he goes off and starts to learn how to golf. And he finds out or he plays hockey. But it's not great at skating, but he's got a heck of a slap shot. And then somebody finds
Right.
him and says, "Hey, why don't you try golf?" And it's this guy that's got like one hand and like one wooden one, like that because an alligator bit it off, and it's Carl Weathers, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come play some golf?" And so Billy Madison, well, Billy Madison's not much of a golfer name, so we think, we'll call you Happy Gilmore, and then carry that on through, like all the way through. Same character in all these movies, Same guy, ends up in Hawaii and meets a girl and doesn't realize that she has very, very like short-term memory, and so he has to date her like 50 times before like she realizes what's going on. Same guy in that.
Yeah. I used to do that with the Will Ferrell characters, so
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. At some point, I don't think it probably doesn't count, but like the Hotel Transylvania movies, is that Billy Madison that's become Dracula at that point?
I think that's
Yeah.
Mr. Deeds is Dracula.
Right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Adam Sandler and Happy Gilmore 2 on Netflix. I think that's going to work. It's funny. I just started watching on Apple TV this show Stick with Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
Have you heard of that?
I have. That's where he plays the ex-golf pro and he finds like the new hot talent.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And it's, it's like obviously meant to play off of some of the heat that Ted Lasso got.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, it plays in the same area, coach with a certain style and sort of a past and some trauma he's going through. So it's got a bit of that same sort of vibe to it as Ted Lasso. But I started watching it, and I got to tell you, like, one of the first thoughts I had was, like, is this Happy Gilmore? Because the kid, this pro picks up season at a driving range, and he can put a golf ball in a dumpster like from 300 yards out or something like that. I mean, it's got this massive like slap shot, this drive, and it's like it's got that same effect, like the golf ball has a camera in it, so you see the club come and hit it, and then you see it soaring through the air. So it's got that effect, which is cool. I like that in a sports movie. I think they should do that with like real golf. I think they should put cameras in the balls, and then maybe I'd watch golf. Not really into golf, but I'm enjoying Stick, and I'm looking forward to Happy Gilmore too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now that's on Apple TV, right?
Stick is on Apple TV. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've so far I haven't watched a lot of their stuff, but I did watch Ted Lasso. I loved it.
Yeah.
I watched the one series they had, Platonic, that was Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne.
Right.
That was really good. So I'll definitely check out Stick. I find most of the Apple TV shows have a real good heart to them.
Yeah.
And they're funny.
Yeah.
So
Heart is a big part of it. And you know what? The other thing I was thinking, Joey, is that, and I know this is a topic that's pretty dear to both you and I, and something we're going to discuss and maybe even do a separate podcast on at some point. But like, it feels like a lot of what Apple TV is doing is based in mental health and therapy.
Absolutely.
And it's characters that are coping with past trauma and with tragedy and things like that in their lives, and just coping with it in different ways, typically in a way that they find community with other people and that supports them. And so I think that a lot of shows are based in that. And that's certainly true of Stick, too. So I think you'd really enjoy it because there's definitely got that element in it as well. The therapy and company, the therapy and being around people that, care about you and that you care about and things like that. And how valuable that is in dealing with, or coming to terms with something that happened in your past that just haunts you or torments you in some way,
Absolutely.
So
no, I'm grateful that there is that kind of thread in some of the entertainment these days.
Yeah.
Just because it's needed. So many of us don't realize that if we don't take time for ourselves, we're not going to be able to be there for the people that matter to us.
Right.
So we do got to take care of ourselves.
I agree. I think that's a good theme to stop on. We kind of got off on some tangents there, which is to be expected. Different ideas about things popping in our head we can't help but express, and that's what happens when we have these knee-jerk reactions to these things, right, Joey?
Absolutely. It's always a good time when we get to jerking around.
Oh no! Don't make that like a tagline or don't make that a catchphrase of this podcast, please. I want people going around jerking around. But no, we have fun.
We do.
And We just talked about July movies, so we're going to have to have a part 3 where we talk about August at least. We've got some movies in August that we have to discuss, but yeah, I think we're ending on a good note. We got a little wacky with stuff. We got jerking around, as Joey would say. Don't make that a catchphrase, please. But we'll talk some more about summer movies next time. And thanks everybody for listening.
See you again soon.
Thank you.
The idea that I could be the one to change, and every spell I said to reanimate the dead could somehow all now be neatly tucked away. But I don't mind tonight. The alignment is right for the moment I feel.
Hey, this is Scott Paris. I want to do a quick shout out for Every.Thing.After Podcast.
And my ETA.
My ETA is...
And my ETA.
And our Everything After is.
Our Everything After.
And my ETA is...
Oh, hey, how's it going? I know you've been going through some stuff. I think we all have. And it's not all bad. But maybe there's enough of that you feel like putting something good back out in the world. Maybe you pick up a guitar or a camera. Maybe you decide to do a podcast or finally write that book. Maybe it's all of those things. It's not the things that happen to us that define us so much as everything after. And that's what we talk about on the Everything After podcast, where we have conversations with musicians and artists and filmmakers and writers, just creatives who are striving to keep their sanity by doing the things that they love and following their passions. If that sounds like you, we hope you'll join our Everything After community on Instagram. And like, listen, and subscribe to our podcast that release weekly on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks for listening. Until the next thing.